Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking some pretty complex psychological concepts and breaking them down into a visual playbook that you can actually use. We are tackling a completely universal, and let's be honest, entirely nerve-wracking human experience, having a crush. I mean, you know that visceral, stomach-dropping, heart-racing feeling when a certain someone walks into the room? It's like it completely hijacks your brain, right?
And suddenly, boom, you're thrown into this intense mental spiral. You're analyzing every single tiny interaction. You're thinking, wait, are they just being nice? Was that a friendly smile, or was there kind of something more? Did they hold eye contact for like an extra second, or am I literally just imagining things?
And oh man, then the texting starts, and the overthinking goes into absolute overdrive. Did they mean that emoji? Why did they use the melting face? Should I use it back? Oh my gosh, it's been 3 hours, why haven't they responded? I think we've all spent way too much time staring at a screen, totally agonizing over a tiny digital face.
And ultimately, you just hit this massive wall of total exasperation. You're just wondering, how do I even get on their radar without looking completely desperate or like I'm trying way too hard? It is so incredibly frustrating to feel like you're stuck in the background of their life, especially when they are front and center in yours.
So, hey, let's just take a breath for a second. If you have ever completely frozen around your crush, said something super awkward, or just felt totally invisible, I really want to validate that right now. Seriously, it happens to all of us. But today, we're tossing out that panic and we're replacing it with a science-backed solution. You don't need to change how you look. You don't need to change how much money you have. You just need to understand a little bit of psychology.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our psychological playbook for today. We're going to cover demystifying human attraction, the power of presence, subtle signals that work, deepening the emotional bond, and finally, the authenticity factor.
So, Part 1, Demystifying Human Attraction. We're talking biology here, not magic.
You see, we've basically been conditioned to think of attraction as this magical, mysterious force that just strikes like lightning if you're lucky. But in reality, it's a biological pattern. It's a beautifully layered system of brain chemistry, primarily driven by dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. And here's the best part. Because it's a system, it can be gently and genuinely activated by the right inputs.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this concept called the misattribution of arousal. There's this famous psychological experiment where people who crossed a scary, shaky suspension bridge were actually way more likely to be attracted to the interviewer they met at the end of it, compared to the people who crossed a solid, perfectly safe bridge. So why does that happen? Well, their hearts were racing from the adrenaline of the bridge, and their brains mistakenly attributed that physical excitement to the person standing right in front of them. It's wild, but it shows us that shared excitement literally builds bonds. Timing really matters.
All right, moving into Part 2, the power of presence. How to actually get on their radar.
Say hello to your new best friend, the mere exposure effect. This was coined by psychologist Robert Zionch, and it just brilliantly demystifies human connection. It proves you don't need some grand cinematic entrance. Your brain is literally wired to like things it recognizes. So by consistently showing up in their environment, going to the same events, hanging out in the same spaces, you are building a subconscious comfort. You naturally transition from being just a stranger to a safe, familiar presence.
Now, those toxic dating tropes, they'll tell you to play hard to get by ghosting or avoiding someone. But science tells us to use something called the reward uncertainty effect. See, our brains release massive amounts of dopamine when we don't know exactly what to expect. So you offer genuine warmth and engagement, but maybe with a slight unpredictability in your timing. It keeps things exciting and fresh without causing that awful anxiety of just being completely ignored.
So let's look at 3 low-stakes but highly specific hacks to make your presence unforgettable. First, the name drop. Hearing your own name activates a unique part of your brain that signals importance. Second, wear a subtle, clean scent. Your olfactory bulb sits right next to the limbic system, which is where memories live, so a consistent scent creates a deep emotional imprint. And third, what Vanessa Van Edwards calls total engagement. Don't just focus solely on your crush. Win over their friends too. It makes you incredibly alluring when they see that everyone else in the room already likes you.
Okay, on to Part 3, subtle signals that work. We are elevating the stakes here.
Have you ever heard of the chameleon effect? It's the gentle subconscious matching of someone's posture or energy. If they lean in, you lean in. If they speak softly, you kind of lower your tone. When you subtly mirror someone, their nervous system literally relaxes. Their brain subconsciously registers, oh hey, this person is like me, and it triggers this powerful, almost instantaneous, we just click sensation.
Next up is the triangle gaze, and this one is super actionable. Eye contact activates the limbic system, which is exactly where desire lives. So step 1, you look at their left eye. Step 2, the right eye. And step 3, you let your gaze gently drop to their lips, and then back up. You aren't staring them down like a weirdo, you're just letting your attention linger. It subtly cues their brain to start picking up romantic and intimate signals.
And then we have the absolute magic of asking for one small favor. This is known as the Ben Franklin effect. Franklin actually noticed that if he asked a rival to just lend him a book, the rival became much friendlier toward him. Why? Because when you ask someone for a small, low-stakes favor, their brain actually has to justify doing it. And the easiest justification the brain makes is, well, I did a favor for them, so I must like them. It creates instant subconscious investment.
Which brings us to part 4, deepening the emotional bond. Now, chemistry gets their attention, for sure, but connection is what keeps it. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference. Shared interests, like, loving the same bands or binging the exact same shows, they're the doorway in. They're super fun. But shared values, like empathy, ambition, or honesty, that's the floor you stand on. Liking the same music will get you noticed, but aligning on core values, that builds a lasting emotional foundation where they actually feel truly safe with you.
To find those shared values, you really have to upgrade your conversations. Psychologist Arthur Aaron proved that gradual self-disclosure is what bonds people deeply. You literally have to ditch the surface level, "Hey, how's your weekend?" and move into what's called a vulnerability loop. Ask things like, "What makes you feel most at ease?" When you ask meaningful questions and share your own honest answers, the brain literally releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone.
So, the crucial point is this. You do absolutely not need to be perfect. In fact, perfection kind of works against you. The pratfall effect proves that when you make a small mistake or admit a flaw, you actually become more likable. If you say something awkward, just own it. Laugh at yourself. Trust me on this. Tripping over your own feet isn't the deal breaker you think it is. Being imperfectly, genuinely human brings down their walls way faster than a polished, unapproachable facade ever could. Finally, we arrive at part 5, the authenticity factor, the ultimate secret.
Let's move to and see how this builds toward the most critical element of all, emotional safety. Listen, you can have all the dopamine-triggering eye contact and shared laughter in the entire world, but if the connection lacks genuine safety and trust, it's just going to fade. You build secure emotional attachment through predictable kindness and active listening. It's about remembering the small things they say and proving day in and day out that you are a steady, safe presence in their life.
Take a second to really absorb this. Attraction isn't about proving yourself, it's about inviting someone in. You don't need to change who you are. You're simply using these psychological tools to peel away your own hesitation. You're just letting them see the real, grounded, completely fascinating human being that you already are.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you ready to stop trying to impress them and start genuinely inviting them in? You've got the science now, you've got the structure, but never forget that your authenticity is the absolute magic ingredient. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I challenge you to go out there and put this playbook to the test.